he was whining and crying. I saw the beginning of the interview, and he was like, I don't get it. You've done interviews with other people, but you never did mine. I'm like, Ariel, calm down. Stop whining. Stop crying. It's not that she doesn't like you. It's just like she said, she was looking for a moment to have something to brag about and talk about. And like, hey, my movie's doing great, or this is going to be a great movie, or whatever it was. You know, I'm coming back, you know, and but look, the one thing, obviously, and I already can read all the responses. People are going to think that I'm Dana bashing, but I'm not Dana bashing.
Yes, you are.
I'm not. I'm not Dana bashing. Look, I want to take all the fans into the psyche of the fighters, and the psyche of the fighters. Like, look, when fighters have to deal with promoters, boxing, MMA, doesn't make a difference. There's a level of I don't want to say harassment, but there's a level of mistreatment. What is it? What was the word?
Abuse.
Tension, abuse.
Abuse.
Yes. There is a level of abuse that you have from your promoter to the athlete. And it doesn't go that way with all promoters, okay? But we've seen it time and time again over, you know, with Dana. And the main part is I'm going to stick with is on the girl, is with Gina Carano and the negotiations of when she was offered $1 million. And you have the backstory on this. She confirmed everything that you and I had already known, or you had just told me, or you had already told me. But Can you give me the full rundown on what it was basically this interview talks about?
Well, she got an offer from the UFC. They decided at the time Ronda was, just riding high, and they were looking for big fights that they could sell for big pay-per-view dollars, and Gina's name came up. They asked her to come out to lunch. I know that it went very well. I think she brought all that up with Ariel and stuff, and they offered her $1 million for that fight. But you figure her last fight was against Chris Cyborg. That fight in Strikeforce, she had not fought since. Her last training camp for that fight was at Extreme Couture. And so she didn't have any kind of, anything around her. Nobody to even start to talk about, an idea of how to prepare for Ronda or anything like that. And she had asked, just do me a favor and give me 6 months of time to get a team together and get myself kind of back into the flow of training. And yeah, I'll take the fight. Just give me that time. Just don't let people know that this is what I'm doing. It's okay if people see me back in the gym. I just don't want them knowing that I am going to be fighting Ronda.
Yeah.
And that was agreed upon. And shortly thereafter, it became, out there that Dana came out and said basically that he was trying to sign Gina Carano to take on Ronda Rousey. And Gina she's a different person. She's very shy. She's very quiet. She doesn't communicate with, she's got her people that she talks to, and she wasn't happy about it. And one of the people that she used to talk to a lot was Randy Couture. And then there was a text that was sent, and it wasn't meant to be sent to her, but it was a mistake, or somehow because her name, somehow it got sent to her. And it basically was saying, that she wasn't being easygoing in this, negotiation and what was going on. And she sent it back to Dana, and Dana said, yeah, that was meant for you. And from that point, she didn't talk to him. She just iced him out. Yeah. And that's the kind of person she is, and that's the way she should be. She should not take abuse from anybody over anything when it comes to the negotiation of a fight. Yeah. She had agreed to something, they had agreed to something, and someone didn't hold up their end of the agreement. And then they're upset about the fact that someone's not being helpful to them when they haven't held up their end of the agreement. That's what happens. Yeah. That's what it is.
She kind of hit the nail on the head. She said she was basically felt like she was trying to be bullied into the fight. Like she was trying to and we've seen that countless times. We've seen that countless times with Dana, and we've seen it with boxing promoters as well. But I just want to go back to when people ask me, about Chris Cyborg, and they asked me about other fighters that Bellator has signed, and they continuously said like, oh, they left for easier competition. I said no, they actually left because they like to be treated better. That's one, and two is because they got paid more. You know, and so when you talk to guys like Ryan Bader and Phil Davis and Gegard Mousasi and myself, I talk to myself all the time. But you know, I have
great conversations.
Yeah, it's great conversations. Amazingly, we always agree. But it's you know, and now Cyborg, you know, and I haven't had an opportunity or a chance to talk to Kat Zingano, but she's now with Bellator as well. But look, the conversation always comes back to the fact that they don't like the way that they're being treated. And Gegard was like number 2 or 3, I think, on the scale, and was basically like next in line for a title shot.
He was.
Jacare was ahead of him. There was no reason for him to leave. He was on a win streak. Like, he was winning fights, and he was like one fight, maybe just right next in line for a title, because Jacare ended up losing to Yoel Romero, I believe. And then Gegard would have potentially have been next or somebody else right in front of him, so he maybe would have had to fight one more time. But there was no reason for him to leave. It really just came down to the fact that he didn't like the way the UFC was treating him, which means Dana White was treating him, and he was getting paid more money somewhere else. So I would wish that people would understand. I know they're not gonna, okay, but I wish people would understand that, like, sometimes when you see in the bigger sports, let's say NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, these guys don't leave teams because they want to be always on the winning team. They leave teams because they want to make more money. And whatever team, sometimes the shitty teams have a bigger salary cap, and they want to go there, and they want to make more money because they can make millions to retire on. Like, after they're done, they know that the money is gonna be there. Like, it doesn't make a difference about the UFC. The UFC's not gonna be there for them anymore. And Chuck Liddell found that out. They're not gonna be there for them anymore. Like, you'll have to beg to get tickets to go to the events.
And either is the money. That's the whole point, is when you stop, they're not sending you more money. No. You know, they don't care about you. It's like, oh, okay, you retired. Have a nice life. And you better be able to live off of what you made. We talked about fighters' careers. And I always say, if you have a 10-year career, you had a great career. Now, there are guys that I absolutely have, you know, careers that are twice that long, but it's not the common. The common is, you know, fighters have careers usually of about 4 to 5 years. You have a 10-year career, you're doing good. You have a 15-year career, fantastic. 20-year career, incredible. But this is your moment to set yourself up for the rest of your life. And you've got to make as much money as you can, because you don't know which fight it's going to be that's going to change you, that's going to make it to where you don't fight as well now for the rest of your career. And those fights are out there no matter what organization you're fighting in. I'm never going to sit here and say the UFC isn't great. They're great.
No, they are great.
But the fighters in Bellator are great too. And if you go to any gym that has fighters from both Bellator and the UFC there, you're going to find out quickly that they all know that there's no difference between them. Yep. They're all just good fighters.
Yeah.
And you've got to make your money when you can. And if Bellator is going to pay you more money, go to Bellator. If UFC is going to pay you more money, go to the UFC. Yeah. You've got to make your money when you can.
This is what baffles me the most. All I see all over social media from some of these fighters and other athletes, know your worth. All they post is all these dumb sayings and all these dumb quotes about know your worth. I have no idea why all of these guys, it's almost like they're afraid to piss off the UFC.
They are.
But I don't understand why. Like, because just check out the free market agency. See where you can make the most money. You said it yourself. When you're done fighting, they will not be sending you a check anymore. They won't be giving you a little check in the mail. You're not going to get that extra 10 grand or that extra 20 grand because of who you were and what you did for them. Let me give you a little insight. Just until recently, Cowboy Cerrone's been fighting all the time, right? His legacy has been, he's fought everybody anytime, been a company man the whole time. It wasn't until recently that he was only making 120 grand a fight. How fucking sad is that? A guy takes last minute fights, steps up fights all the time. Now finally he got a bump in pay, and then I've from what I understand, it's already been confirmed, or maybe it hasn't been publicly confirmed, but he's now pretty much got the fight with Conor McGregor, which is supposed to be at the end of January is what it sounds like, maybe early February. They haven't got the exact date yet.
Thought it was
That's
January
a fight.
18th.
Yeah, I think that got bumped though to something else now. Yeah, but yeah, because January 18th I think is now supposed to be, I don't know, in some like Houston, and I don't think they're gonna take it there. From what I understand, the fight was supposed to be in Vegas for Conor. So if that happens, anyways, it'll be Cerrone and Conor in Vegas, I believe, is what they were saying. So if that fight happens, which it's pretty much agreed on by both parties, contracts are not fully signed yet, from what I understand, but it is agreed on for both of them. But this is finally his big money fight, but it's his money fight, I think, is more or less to say farewell. Like, hey, at least you made a lot of money in this fight, and now you can kind of just, if you want to fight one or two more times, cool, but if not, cool. But this is kind of like your send-off fight. But my point is that at the end of the day, he's been the token company man for the UFC.
Oh, he's been fantastic for the UFC.
Phenomenal. That guy, he's done everything they've asked him to do.
Yep.
And just until recently, a couple fights ago, he was only making 120 grand or 140 or 160. Like, I know maybe you guys are sitting at home thinking, oh, that's a lot of money. That's a ton of money. But look, in whenever he's done fighting, that will be it. Like, he's going to have to find another career. He's going to have to find another thing to make money to provide for his family. And people don't get that. There's another 60 years of your life you still have to live.
And that
or you hope.
that BMF or what is BMR? His BMR ranch, man. It's costly.
Yeah. It's, I mean, so
I don't personally know what Donald makes. And I know that, guys make more money than people think, but this is a fight that should have taken place 3 years ago.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Now, that doesn't mean that I still won't want to see it now, but this is a fight. When they did that, they had that whole come together and Conor was in a cat fight with everybody and talking about red panties and all that stuff. And that was the moment, because he was supposed to fight, Dos Anjos.
Yep.
And kind of got into it with Cerrone there. Jeremy Stevens was trying to give his little thing, but it was a matter of that was back when that fight should have happened. But it'll be nice. I think it's a great thing for Donald. Conor hasn't been fighting. Donald has. Donald is not the same fighter that he was. He's you can see there's a little bit of a regression in his abilities and stuff. We'll see what happens in it, but I hope he makes a ton of money off of it. He deserves it. He's been incredible for the sport, for the UFC as a company. Donald Cerrone he's the man.
I don't normally buy UFC pay-per-views. I usually just bootleg them. So, but just because
so you'll bootleg that one too.
No, just because he's on. If he fights Conor McGregor, I will actually pay the full, and I'll even get the HD just so he gets a little bit more. Yeah, absolutely. I've loved watching that guy fight for the longest time, and he is exactly what I would hope that every fighter would look up to and be like. He's amazing. Everything about him is. I love the way he carries himself. He truly is a fighter down at the heart. I love the way he is with his son. I love the way he is just on TV and carry. It's him. This is who you get. This is who you're going to get, and I love everything about him. And like I said, I'm going to buy the pay-per-view just because he's on it.
Same here. I love to see him, so it's
yeah, when we talk about fighters being mistreated, and when we talk about people don't understand why fighters want to leave or why they leave, or they couldn't do it or they couldn't handle it. No, it's not that. Sometimes fighters just want to get paid more money. That's one. Sometimes fighters don't want to be mistreated. And with Cyborg, she got tired of being called a man. She got tired of being mistreated. She got tired of being talked down to.
Go back and look at all the things that happened. Yeah. Before Chris was ever signed with the UFC, because that signing was done by Lorenzo Fertitta. That was not done by Dana. Dana didn't even want that. Lorenzo was the one, hey, this is the best female fighter in the world. We need to get her. And I agree with him. I agree with him, 100% on that. And then everything that happened even before it. You look at some of the comments that were made, just immature and wrong, just unnecessary. But I think she looked at it believing Lorenzo, that, hey, it's going to be good here. We're going to take care of you. You're going to fight. You're going to fight great. And then Lorenzo left. He sold the company, and she's in that position. And sometimes personalities just don't get along, and hers and Dana's never really got along. And you need to be careful with what you say, because you say something and it means nothing to you doesn't mean that it doesn't affect somebody else permanently. And some of the things that were said has affected her permanently, and she was very upset. I can tell you that I talked to her, over a year ago. It's been a year and a half ago when she was upset about, what was going on, and said, I don't even want to be with this company because they have no respect for me. They treat me wrong. I get lied to, and no one. Think about yourself. I don't care what job you do. You work for somebody. You go to your boss, and your boss tells you something. You walk out of the office, and then the next day, what he said is exactly the opposite. How does that make you feel? This is what happens. It's no different in the fight game than it is in other. It's a job. For the fighter, it's a job. This is how they make their money. And they have to believe in the person that they are working for, that person has their best intent towards them and being fair to them. That's all they expect is, hey, be fair to me. And sometimes that just doesn't work out.
Yeah, because you got to think, like Gina had said that basically he had sent a text saying the words, this bitch is just doing this and this. And then when she had called
stringing us along.
Yeah, stringing us along.
Yeah.
She had said basically like, hey, I think you said this to the wrong person. He's like, no, it was meant for you. And that right there, like you said, she just shunned him out and it was done. Like went radio silence. But when you have that, if somebody's willing to do that.
She gave up $1 million.
Yeah. And
$1 million.
That was back when these guys, none of us were really making, no one's making that type of money.
Come on.
I mean, there had a couple guys that were.
She walked away from it because she said, you know what? I don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And so when people talk, when I read stuff on Twitter and I read stuff on Instagram, and I shouldn't care, but I really do feel for Cyborg, because there's a lot of things that were said a lot worse to her. And when people ask, like, oh, she left because she was scared. She hasn't been scared of anyone since she started fighting. There was that. And then, and like, oh, she didn't want to fight the best girls. No, if you actually talk to Scott Coker and you actually talk to Bellator, they're willing to make that Amanda Nunes fight and Cyborg fight. But the UFC's not willing to do it.
Scott Coker's willing to make it, but Dana White's not going to be willing to make it.
No, he's not willing to make it. And the reason, and people should understand, that the reason why she didn't resign is because she didn't want to be under the UFC banner anymore. Had nothing to do with that. Is that she would have had to sign a 3-fight deal. She fought for that.
Well,
title.
no. In fact, let's make this clear for everyone.
Okay.
Because that was part of the whole thing. That Dana came out and said, I will make her a 1-fight deal. Okay? So Dana came out and said, I'll make her a 1-fight deal. But in him saying that, he's giving you a half-truth. In the half-truth is the contract is a 1-fight deal. But if you become the UFC champion, meaning you win, you are under contract to me.
Yep.
So you can't go away. You are mine. And she would have been now under contract with Dana as her boss. And she could do nothing about it until she lost her title.
Yeah. It's rough, man.
It's a good world, man. It's a good world.
And they to go back to BJ Penn, they started doing that because BJ left when he was the champion.
That's right.